30 seconds. Apologies. We'll be right back. So let's go ahead and call it. The committee of the whole meeting to order on April 28th. We have 2 items on the agenda. And first up, we have Christy and the website update.
Thank you very much. Thank you for this opportunity to give you an update on our young website and the work that's going on. 2022, when we proposed this as a budget item, you asked us to not make this painful, and I hope that you've gotten that experience so far. We began work on this in 2024, really in full force, and launched in late January. We are just at 90 days. So we're 90 days old, and that process has been a humongous team effort, not only from the group sitting with me and behind me, but from across all the city departments, making their own updates and getting involved and taking ownership of their pages. And you'll hear about that in the next few minutes, and I will turn it over now to Laura Pettit, our Communications and Engagement Director.
Thank you. As you know, we're 90 days in, and it's been a remarkable amount of work from throughout the city. So I want to give credit from across all departments. It's really been a tremendous lift. Why make a change? Frankly, it was time. Our previous supplier had transitioned from municipal websites into providing mostly school websites. We also had support sunsetting, so we had no customer service if things went wrong. It really became a time to review what we needed from a website and review what was happening across the landscape to see where we can make improvements. So what we found after really chatting through operationally how the website was working and then looking at it from the resident end as well, it was clunky and painful for staff. And what that really meant was that they couldn't do it without a large amount of effort or training. So most of that came through comms, and it became a bottleneck in updates to the website pages, details. So we had an opportunity. We had a lot of stale and abandoned pages that had outdated information. And we had over 100 pages that hadn't been visited at all in the past year. So that told us there was an extraneous amount of waste. And really what we wanted to do is make sure that we had a good product. That's our digital lobby, really. It's our City Hall online. So our old provider had limited capabilities for integrations. I think you've probably seen our clerk software that plugs into the site. And it's really obvious that it's a different website that you go to. We wanted to take a look at things like that. It's a visible transition. And then lastly, we took a look at what you would experience if you were a resident. And we realized that our website was really focused on our org chart, which doesn't make sense if you're a resident. You're not going to know what's nested under executive services or public works if you're just trying to get, your dog license. So we really took a look at user experience. So what's new and what's improved? We really took a look at user-focused design. So taking that mind, the eye of the resident, we looked at what we could do to serve that behavior, the user behavior, and we designed accordingly from there. We wanted to make our most frequently visited web pages easy to access, and our goal is no more than 3 clicks. We found that there's a big old drop-off that happens the more click-throughs you have to go through. We had about 900 pages on our website, and we're down to about 400 now. So that can tell you a little bit about how easy it is to find things. There were a lot of pages that were brought together under one title, and that just made more sense to find. Under accessibility, that was another big focus for us. So you'll see now on our site, there's an opportunity to translate into any language. That's a huge improvement. We also have back-end checks for alt text on images and accessible language. That's a big deal for some of our hearing and sight impaired plugins that happen to increase accessibility there. We also did a large amount of internal training on plain language, and that's a federal government directive on making things easy for lay people to understand. And there's a lot of, as you know, lingo that goes along with government operations or engineering, and we wanted to make sure it's easy, it's accessible. And most importantly, what plain language does is it makes it easier to translate into other languages too. So we want to make sure that that's understandable. And up next, continuous improvement. This is a living, breathing project that so many people in the city touch every day. We've got a huge amount of subject matter experts, and we want to make sure they're reviewing content for accuracy. So we're continuing to refine and improve every day. Last but not least, we selected a provider that has best-in-class support. So we've got data, we've got analytics, we've got numbers on how many people are visiting and where that's happening. We can also really take a look at, are there upcoming issues? Let's say we've got a large amount of clicks into a certain topic. We can anticipate what might happen or what might be the public's interest coming up. It's useful information. So we took our inspiration from some of the country's top cities and websites. Granicus as a provider also has done a number of sites we admire for user accessibility. So Palo Alto, Miami, the city of San Jose specifically had really great data visualization features that I know our finance department was excited about because they were able to make complex information really easy to understand. So that is pretty fun for us. We have, a really great response time on items that aren't found too. And I think that within this transition point, we have an opportunity. All of these sites have a really great navigation system in which you can get to things in 3 clicks. And that's our goal. It's a continuous improvement goal that we have. So how did we do this and how did we design it? What information did we use? There's a huge amount of data that goes into this. So we use things like heat mapping and figuring out where people were clicking on our old website to direct them through to what they wanted to do. We did a good amount of surveying. We did a statistically valid survey through Granicus, the provider, and we selected a random control number to represent our population on how people were able to get through that process and find things specifically. During beta testing, we asked questions on how easy was this to find or where was this? What would you do if you were looking for a specific topic? And they would have to go through that process. But yes, this is an incredibly large project utilizing information architecture too. So of those 900 pages, we had to go through all of that content and figure out what works here, what makes sense, what partners with each other, and how would you get to something if you were not informed about how the city was put together under an org chart, like our old website. So we did a lot of testing, we did a lot of user experience designing, and then there was that big old content rationalization process, which is a huge word for how do you take 900 pages and figure out what's accurate and what makes sense, what's new and valid. So that was a big part of what we did, and we went from that 900 to about 200. That Granicus migrated for us. And beyond that, our team worked with each department to figure out what information needed to go where. Let's see. Numbers. This is the fun part. So numbers tell us where we need to go. So the website analytics really tell us how many engagements people are having, how long people are spending on the site, how many page views we had per year, and where they were coming from. We took a look at what they were doing once they were on our site. And how they were getting there. We took a look at our most frequently visited pages. We took a look at how many people were there and how much time they spent on the page. And then our favorite of all, feedback. So we compiled all those feedback from those surveys, those statistically valid survey results, and we talked to each one of our departments too about how we needed to do this. And training and responsibilities. We have 42 webmasters throughout the city. And as mentioned before, we have a huge amount of subject matter experts, and it's their eyes that really matter in reviewing content and making sure it's up to date and accurate and put forward in the right way. So we spent a long time going through those training sessions. That represents about 10 hours of training per webmaster on writing for the web, which is also a little bit of that plain language we were talking about. Accessibility, how to work through the back-end system, how to add images, how to work within the system, and then also just fixes with Granicus on things that weren't quite working with us and fine-tuning those. We had dedicated working sessions. I'm going to go back just quickly, and we migrated all those remaining pages. So that was all of those remaining 700 pages. We had to sort through and figure out what made sense and if they made the cut to the new website. Analytics. So again, numbers are our friend. And first and foremost, we took a look at what the most frequently visited pages are, what our numbers were. As you can see, there's a transition from the first month where we transitioned from our old site to new, and the last month. And what you see is a page not found dropping dramatically. First and foremost, that's a Google search issue. Those are referral sites and things that were linked to maybe dead pages. So as we combined information and those URLs changed a little bit, those will continue to redirect to the correct sites, and that number will continue to drop. Key benefits. This is a big part, and this is the reason we went with Granicus as a provider. It's really industry leading. We have a hugely improved back-end organization system. If you think about this like a paper structure, it's like taking 3 office floors of file folders and putting them into a lovely designed file cabinet, if you will, color coded and organized well, and so everyone can find information. And it's really much easier for all of our staff to work in and find information and make sure that there aren't outdated links or information there. When you make a change in one place, it will update it in multiple pages, so you do not have to update those URLs in 7 different places if that's a site that's referred to again and again through our website, and that's a big time saver, and it also reduces human error. This also integrates with other Granicus products, and the integrations are a big part of making a seamless website experience. So it works with our engagement software, which is Your Voice Renton. It works with Gov Delivery, which is our email marketing provider. And then it also works with GovQA, which is our public records request software. We have some other things that are benefits. Data visualization, I know, is something that we'll talk about in just a moment. I do want to point back to Your Voice very quickly, too. This is a one-stop shop for in-depth information on a specific topic, and we know people have very specific interests when they go to the website. They're looking for something, they're worried about a project, or they're concerned about something that they see. We have this structure, and first and foremost, there's a great little button at the top that also allows us to translate language there. It's a really great feature, but this is a visualization of all the information in one place. So rather than having to click through and open up files, you see a timeline of all our community engagement events and public input. You see the conversation, you know what staff member you can reach out to with questions. You can leave your comments there, or you can sign up for the next time that we've got a public event, and you can find out a little bit more information so that your questions are well informed, and if not answered right there, you know who to ask. So among the other benefits as well, there is an improved event function as well. We've really worked through some calendar functions with Granicus and with our staff. There's the opportunity to layer based on department and interest, and we are working through the process of how to ensure the right tags are located within the calendar. And that's a little bit of back-end training that we're continuing to do and gain skill and strength on. But yes, there's also, it's a mobile-friendly design too. It's a mobile responsive design, meaning it will show up on any kind of screen you have, from iPad to iPhone. And we have the ability to search without ads. That's the other great part of that. When you go to search on the City of Renton website, the only results that will be returned are on Rentonwa.gov. And you can also search and have Your Voice Renton results pop up. So if you're looking for zero waste, that page will pop up and take you right through, rather than having to go to a page on the website and then click through and then click through. A lot of information. So really kind of straightforward on that. There's also a really low probability of outages with Granicus, and I think their uptime is about 99.9%, which is a huge security win. So we talked through a little bit of Your Voice. I know we're also going to talk talk through the change from Civic Web, which you're all familiar with, which is our clerk software, into a new product from Granicus called One Meeting. And I will cede the floor to Jason Seth.
All right, thanks. Yeah, so about 6-8 months ago, we contracted with Granicus to purchase a new software agenda platform called One Meeting. And the main benefit to the community is that the landing page for the minutes and meetings and the videos and things that we find now will look like our website. Currently, I think there's still some confusion out there where people click on the current portal to Civic Web and it kind of looks like the old website, so it's confusing. And so that's one of the reasons. But the main internal reason that we're doing this is because of integration with Office 365, and so there'll be less chance of versioning errors, where currently you have to download a file and re-upload it. This, you can do all of the work within the system. And so, and another benefit is that the minutes and the agendas are not going to change. They're going to look exactly like they do now. It's just the landing page and how you get to the minutes is going to be more integrated with our new website. So, and that should hopefully roll out before the end of the year.
Continued evolution. So our response to questions and feedback is ongoing. Right now, I'm sure you've seen the landing banner on our website that notes that we do have a new website and to reach out to communications for any issues and concerns that we do. We're pretty proud that we have a almost immediate response time on responding to questions and issues or not being able to find things. We do have a planned 6-month assessment coming up in July after we've been in practice, and that's going to include both a survey for our city staff on what their experience is in working with the software, and then also a survey for end users on their experience from the user experience end of things. We're offering continued support through communication staff as well. We are your question base for anything that is coming through from staff and how to work with the program to resident concerns or questions. We do have our monthly reporting analysis on what's changing, what visitors are changing, and we can see where any issues might arise there. We're working on individual department sessions with communications, so a little bit of coaching there on how to resolve issues, how do you best use the software, what the features might be that would be applicable to their projects. And very exciting for me, we have a photo refresh project on the horizon, which is through a new platform called Canto, which we've been organizing all of our images through and videos through. So we have a cycle of 2 to 3 years for an image refresh, which means our images will be current and look like the city looks rather than a few years ago. So we really want to reflect the work that's been done throughout the city and showcase it on our website. And we also feature monthly meetings with our citywide webmasters. So that group of 42 people, we meet every month to discuss best practices, issues, and troubleshoot them and make sure that they feel supported in the software and using that as well. And yeah, with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Mr. President,
Yes.
thank you guys so much for the presentation. I do appreciate it. I believe this is the third website that's happened in my time on this council. And I know you mentioned that we had to do the refresh now because Power School was no longer going to be working with municipalities. Do we have any of that concern with Granicus? Do we, I don't want to be sitting here in 2 years and we're talking about another web development company.
Do I? That's a great point. No, Granicus is one of the leading providers of city websites throughout the nation. So we really went through a deep dive into history, company history, what other clients they served, length of service, and whether or not we saw that coming up again. And we're very confident that this is a long-term solution.
Thank you.
Oh, Councilmember McIrvin.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I'm also great presentation. I wanted to dive a little bit into the analytics slide, if we could. Question I had on the countries of origin, and I don't know if that is. I guess my question would be: is the numbers seem like we have a fair amount? It's not a super large amount outside, but what I'm wondering, the question I'm coming from that is, Are we tracking bot traffic, and or is this a product of VPN users, or do we have any way of assessing where some of these folks are actually tapping in from?
It's probably something that we can look further into on Google Analytics, and any changes. I noticed, yes, that we have, a German, Indian, Canadian, Irish, Filipino, and UK audience. And well, I'd like to think that we're popular internationally. There are also other cities of Renton, so once in a while that might pop up. However, the numbers are low enough that you can attribute it through error or people looking at a place they used to live. So around 500, I think, is a pretty low amount. But thank you, Germany, for showing up. So I don't necessarily think that's bot traffic, because that would be much higher. Yeah.
More concerned about how many people tuned in from Russia, actually.
Council President.
Yes.
Follow up on Councilmember Prince's question. Is it pretty standard? Because I believe Councilmember Prince, and somebody correct me here on the dais, please, was elected in 2011. So this would be about what, 13? I'm trying to guess. It's like 13, 14 years, like 3 changes in 4. Is that excessive? Is that average? Because I'm just thinking technology and web design has evolved so much in the last 15 years. Like, I don't also want to go through this again in 2 years, because we've definitely experienced some growing pains with this website redesign. But is that pretty standard for like the last 15 years to have like kind of 3 different upgrades, or just for someone who is kind of newer for me?
Sure. I think the amount of tech upgrade we've seen has absolutely exploded. So the features that we have now and the things that are rolled out and the things that our residents expect are very, very different now in 2025 than they were in 2011. I just think about driving a 2011 car versus a current one. The amount of features are overwhelming. And we're also trying to keep up with that demand too. And if we can offer some things that continually update on their own, which I think Granicus is the best solution for, then we're staying ahead of the curve.
Oh, no.
Sorry, that was not intentional. I'm trying to think of a different one. But we're staying ahead of competitors, really, with one product rather than switching up again and again. And I would almost think of it like you think of iPhone updates too. Like, there's a 3rd gen here. Like, that's every 2 or 3 years there are going to be upgrades. But I think we're with a provider that will help us through that rather than having to switch over. And that's one of the benefits with this.
And you anticipated my next question. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for the presentation.
Kim Khan and Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. I want to say thank you for the presentation. I really appreciate the web accessibility in terms of the poor, as you're looking at the vision, hearing, motor, and cognition. Particularly for me as a user that is not always, I can relate to folks who within language and folks who are not easily accessible to digital items. So this website transformation has been very much impactful, and I can use it on my cell phone. That it's easy, it's very user friendly. So thank you.
Glad to hear. Thank you.
Valerie, then Ruth.
Yes, thank you. And I do want to say that when this first rolled out, it was tough. And I just spent some time over the weekend going back through some of the tough areas earlier this year, and it's much improved, much improved. Can you go back to the slide, please, that shows the analytics of where people were looking for information?
We have top tasks and pages by views, both of which kind of address your question.
The one that I think it's the one before this.
The one that showed page not found.
No, the one that showed, people are looking for recreation. They're looking for dog permit.
It was data-driven decisions, I believe.
And the top 15 pages of our views, is that what it was?
Page 6 of 11, I believe.
Is that it?
Is it one of those 4 pages?
Well, learning about a recreational, the top tasks.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So is this real? I mean, this is real? This is us?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to respond to the registering or learning about a recreational program, because I'm one of those people who does use our park and rec offerings, and I have some very specific suggestions over the registration process for our recreational programs that is very, very cumbersome, I believe completely unnecessary. And typically, like for me, if I'm registering for a class, I'm going to register for each week and I'm going to register for each month for the series. Well, in order to do that now, you literally have to find the date and the time and the location, and then you have to click on that to open that, and then you register there, which opens another page. And so by the time you register for 2 classes per week for a 3-month period, you've got like 19 pages open, and you have to log out of every single one of them.
That is a project in the queue with Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And that's a different software, but it is something that they're going to be working on, recognizing this feedback. Yes.
And the one other thing that would just make the whole thing so much simpler, is we assign class numbers to every single class, but you can't search by class. You can't by the class number. You can't filter and say, I want these 5 comma delineated classes to be the only one on my screen, so that I can just go register, 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 register. And so it's just a data point that could be utilized to great effect, because we know the class number. It's in the book, it's on the website, but you can't use it for anything. So that's my comment. But other than that, it's looking so much better. Thank you.
Ruth and Ed, Ryan, Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation. I have several questions. I'm gonna try to compile some of them in my first question. First of all, I 100% agree with Councilmember O'Halloran. When you send the first link and say, oh, we launched our website, please dive in it, I just couldn't. I started, and when I started, I was like, I keep reading and say, this is not an improvement from my perspective. But I understand it was a working process. Now, I'm also an old timer. So I do remember in 2015, when we started with the idea of bringing a redesigned website, and it was very painful as well, because after the first presentation, it took 2 years, almost 3 years before they were ready and would say, what is the new website? What is the new website? And it was very frustrating, because as an old timer, most people that are new generations, they do everything through apps. I still Google it. So if I Google something and I appear to me and it's a page that is actually futile because it's not even there or the project is not there, I get very frustrated with. And if I have to click 3 or 4 times to get to where I want, it's very frustrating. So I decided to give it time. So as well as Councilmember O'Halloran, I wait to see how much it has advanced. And it has changed a lot, and I can see that it's a lot of work that has been placed behind. My challenge is that I see it from 2 ways. The first one is most important, is how easy and friendly it is for our residents to be able to navigate it for the services and the information that they are requesting. The other one, that means very visual. So I struggle a little bit, because as you compare it with other cities, it's a beautiful homepage that I love completely, because for all purposes, this is our face to the world. When someone wants to know what is the city of Renton, this is the face. But I'm started struggling when I go to each department. It kind of makes sense, because for me, it looks a little, and I don't know if it's intentional, that it looks very minimalistic, meaning there is not a lot of photos, but that's the general concept, depending of the department. So when you now makes more sense, because if you have 42 webmasters through all the city, obviously I can see in which departments they are staff members that are more savvier, or that they have more time, or that is part of their job to be creative around the department. So there are some departments that are very, very basic, and other departments that you have more color and rhythm and more clicking in, more attractive pages, which is concerning, because you want at least all the pages from different departments to show a similar face, even though all of on the top have the blue band. I'm not against minimalism at all, but when you were talking about the photo refreshment, sometimes people are attracted to that. So I don't know how overwhelming it is for staffers to keep updating the website. And my question is this one. One of the failures that we had from the last time that we did the website is that the website is done and then we don't worry of keeping updates. And that has been an ask. Is this going to be now an extra job and a work that we are going to be related with our current staff, or is something that's going to be interdepartment with the communication department that is going to be in charge of that?
So a couple of things there. So first and foremost, each one of those pages has a template, and there are 3 or 4 templates under the wireframe that all look the same visually. But you are right in that pictures tell a large amount of the story, and that's within our photo refresh what we're guiding departments to do. We want to make sure they're up to date and accurate of what they're portraying, and our turnaround time would be 2 to 3 years for each image. So each image would be retaken every 2 to 3 years to make sure they're fresh and representative of what the work we've done as a city. So that is in motion, and we will work with each department to make sure that there's visual components. But again, longer term project, and we didn't want to hold off a website launch because we didn't have everything just so at launch. It will be a living, breathing project. But yes, absolutely, it is not a project that's done once and then left, because there are so many intrinsic details that only subject matter experts are going to know. So we review them monthly to make sure that the numbers are still correct, the press contacts are still correct, that we've got fresh information, that the URLs are connecting. And beneath this 3-month process, this 90 days, we've discovered that, oh my gosh, one of these URLs links to the old site. We need to get it up immediately, or we need to download that PDF to our new site so that refers to the correct document rather than trying to link through the old website and old host. And so some of those pain points are things that we were immediately able to see and help staff with and train people in so that we can continually keep that fed and growing. And that is it's a huge skill set and a huge learning opportunity, but it's something that we have to do throughout the city to make sure that we're competitive and we're providing the information that our residents need, and that it's all, not just all out there, but easy to find, organized correctly, and able to find within 3 clicks. So that's part of what we're working with each department on. It's not something that can be done in one department. It is a citywide effort because it is citywide information. And so just like we take in customer service as was one of our values, that is something that every department is working on to develop and make sure that content is fresh.
Thank you.
Ed, Ryan, Carmen, keeping in mind we have another item on the agenda.
Yes, I'll make mine real quick. Thank you, Mr. President. When we're looking at the 6-month assessment, and we're doing the survey for users, how are we going to make sure we get a cross section of people?
That's a good question. And that's actually part of our engagement software, and we're working with Granicus on that right now. So this will be hosted within our website on your voice. We're not quite sure if it'll be a pop-up yet or a direct link like a banner, but we're going to source the most frequent users. So if you're in Rentonwa.gov and you have thoughts or feelings on Rentonwa.gov, we want to hear those. And those will be our survey respondents.
Thank you.
All right, trying to be efficient as well. First, thanks for the update. As far as, I think everything looks great, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I definitely respect other comments about as much as we can future-proofing it so it lasts as long as it can, but also recognizing technology changes. One of the ways technology is continuing to change is AI. And so I'm wondering what steps, if any, on that continued involvement we've taken to integrate that technology into the website, either from like a chatbot feature or in terms of, like, as we're getting questions about updating, is that a tool we can use to find those bad links or find things that are out of date in there in the website to scrape that data to find that?
I think there is development under a city policy on how we utilize AI, and that will probably be our guiding feature. I will also say that Granicus, as a web provider, has provided a lot of webinars on how this might be used best for municipalities and government. So we're going to take that lead because it is such a massive shift and a big thing to get involved in. And what are the implications on that? We're going to let other people kind of guide that process and implement them as they become available as best practices.
We can expect to hear more about that. That will be developing over time, but we'll get the policy in place first. But there's definitely more to come, even with Jason's update as well.
Thank you. Sorry, I wasn't sure. Excuse me. When it comes to the 42 webmasters and kind of addition to Councilmember Perez's question, is that how it's always kind of ran, or is this a new workload on some of our staff? And how is that kind of being received rather than having it go through one communications department?
There's two ways we're going about it there. It was how the initial workload was intended, but it didn't end up that way. It ended up as that bottleneck because it was such a difficult system to use. And so things got updated much slower at a slower pace. So not new, but built out and supported now. And so more of a team effort. And it's not necessarily a high effort addition, but it is making sure that like signage is updated and the website has the right information. We also have a point of quality control through the comms team. So we look at all those pages, if they are new pages or pages are deleted, to make sure that people have the right tools, that nothing's disappearing without meaning to have it disappear, or adding things and making sure that, things are built out correctly the first time. So we're still very, very involved, and we're also support essentially for each webmaster there too. We're very, very open with questions and support and guidance on that.
Thank you so much.
Righty. You have one more?
Really quick.
Last one.
Obviously, I have many questions, but because of the sake of the time, I hope that this topic comes again for conversation in a couple of months. I have received a couple of calls or comments or whatever regarding the use of this. I have two specific ones. One, the animal control. Some people go into here and they want to report their pet, and there is not a telephone, there is not a way. As a pet parent, when you realize that your pet is gone, you panic immediately and you go on Google it and you want to find a telephone number. And when you go click, you have to go to Facebook to be able to find the telephone number. So what is the fastest, easiest way? You always try to guide it, right? So this happened because I have to help someone to navigate to the process to get there. That's when I open it and I check it. But the other one was someone wanted their sideway to be repaired. And they say, I went to the website, I click, and in the past, they used to have a telephone number that I can call. Now I have to go to Renton Response. What is Renton Response? Why I have to go to a different application instead of the internet? This is something that then I try if people has to go to different places to get what they want, when it's something that probably they are not in their right state of mind right there because they're stressed. I'm just bringing this up because I know that you're telling me that different departments are the ones that are putting this information. So what is the standard for the communication department to provide a telephone or provide a different link? Or how many times when we talk about clicks, I want to report my animal, I just want to go to one place, give me the telephone number and I call. But from there, I have to go to another page and click another page to get there. In certain circumstances, it's not what you want to do.
First and foremost, if anyone has concerns or wants to be walked through that, I would encourage just communications at Rentonwa.gov, and we can reach out one-on-one and resolve those issues. As far as standards for telephone numbers or directions to, where they need to go, that's dependent really on the department, on what's easiest and best and how they're going to get residents the fastest answer. So if within one context it's Renton Response and they've made the decision that that's how their workflow goes, that would probably be up to them. I would say it's standard practice, I think, on the template of all the sites to list some kind of contact, whether it be email or phone number or whatever else. And we do, when we launch a new page, we review for that. However, down the road, if something changes or if a number is inactive, then it's within that department's responsibility to update that number. Because I don't know if the comms division could go through and call each number to make sure that they were active each month. But yes, that's something that subject matter experts and webmasters should be reviewing for accuracy every single month to make sure that there's something there.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Christy. We are going to move on to this next topic so we can get out of here at least by 10 till. Okay, so I thought it would be a good idea to bring to the forefront the policy on attendance at council meetings, but specifically remote attendance I'm looking at. And Kimberly, are you going to able to pull that up, or if you're listening, or no? I can speak to it, but
We have it.
Everybody, well, that's it's kind of there's a grid that was, there we go.
There we go.
I don't know how many people can see that, close enough. Can we get it on our screens or no?
Just 1 second.
Okay. So what you have, most of you have in front of you, this is kind of for 2025, the grid that Kimberly made of the current tracking of mainly the meetings, the committee meetings and the council meetings, absences, virtual, and virtual attendees. And I thought it would be good to kind of bring it to the forefront, A, to suggest and bring for discussion a couple of potential changes, but B, to really reinforce. I mean, we've had it in place, not necessarily it's kind of been lackadaisical, if you ask me, and to really make sure we're trying to adhere to this as much as possible, avoiding any opportunities for or abuse or taking advantage of it. I'm going to point out a couple things. I don't know how well that can be blown up, but if you have on 4.1 under the policy, this is the one that probably needs clarification. The last sentence about remote attendance authorized. And I'm just going to go to the last sentence. To accommodate occasional remote attendance, each council member may remotely attend all types of council meetings by telephonic, virtual means up to 4 times in a single calendar year without separate approval of the council. Now, the issue with that I think needs clarification says all type of council meetings. Well, for somebody who has to attend virtually, they're on public safety, they're on finance, and then committee of the whole and council, boom, that's blown in one particular night. And so I think we need to look at that and kind of delineate where the virtual, what the 4 virtual a year really should count towards. Personally, I think my impression was it really was more for the council meeting, not necessarily for the committee meetings, because we don't excuse absences in the committee meeting or anything like that. As long as we have 2 of the 4 or 2 of the 3, we're good. A council member.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Yes, I believe when Judith and I were talking about this way back when, the idea was that this was specifically for council meetings at 7:00, not necessarily committee meetings, but for council meetings. But it also was not put in there in a way where it just delineated that. So
Right. So that verbiage needs to be
Yeah.
updated. Councilman, I think I saw Ruth first and then Valerie.
Yeah, Mr. President. Shane, now that you're here, you can answer probably this question. So I do believe that if this was intent for the council meeting, we just have to amend this and see it very specifically, say which meeting is for virtual meetings for the council meeting, right?
Yeah, and my understanding that this was supposed to be for council meetings. Committee meetings are not council meetings. So other than the committee of the whole, arguably, it could be another type of council meeting where you actually have a quorum and you have more of you. So maybe we could clarify that. But other than that, I mean, we just cross off all types of council meetings, or we call it regular meetings, regular or special meetings of the council.
Yeah.
And I think, whether we need to deal with cow differently, we can think about that. But
And as a follow-up, if the council decides that also we just can attend 4 committee meetings virtually, which we didn't discuss it at the time because we were going out of the pandemic. So when we did this, I'm assuming that we can just amend it and add an item in the same policy, right?
yes, we can clarify however you want it. You can have your own rules for committee meetings. Again, I don't think this was really thinking about the committee meetings. So
Which, Mr. President, may I may suggest that we have that conversation if we are going to limit the number of virtual meetings that we can have on committees, or if it's the time to do it. If you think that is a conversation that we can have, or we will be able to attend any committee meetings virtual without limit.
I don't want to necessarily rush the conversation because of the time limit. Now, personally, I'm fine with no limit on virtual committee meetings simply because they're early in the day and there are work family obligations. So logistically and logically, it makes sense that there are likely going to be some times, and I don't think that someone should be penalized for having to choosing to pick up their child, but still saying, hey, you know what, I can join. I just can't get to the physical location. So my preference would be no limit on the virtual virtual committee appearances, but that's just me. We can have that fuller conversation later if that's okay. Valerie, then Kim Con.
Yep, and I agree with that, my understanding was that this is specific to the council meetings. And I just would suggest in the last sentence that we're just referring to, meetings by telephonic virtual means up to 4 dates in a single calendar year.
Great.
That's fair.
There you go.
Okay. Councilmember Vaughn.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Thank you for putting this on the agenda. I know most of you just have the last version, the third version, and I appreciate you sharing the third version as far as tracking attendance because the other two kind of gave different data. So I appreciate giving a holistic data to the best of our knowledge that's accurate. From understanding in the past, we considering this attendance was really full council. So as Shane's bringing up the special meetings, I'd like to have that clarified. Is that executive session? Or what do you mean special meetings? And because it's not on a schedule where that can throw folks off, right? And the timing of it as well. So you kind of clarify.
Let me give big picture first.
Yeah.
So I think the whole idea of excusing absences, there is a state law that says if you miss 3 consecutive meetings unexcused, then you forfeit office, essentially. It's an automatic matter of law that if you miss 3 unexcused. So when you're talking about whether something's excused or not, and what the enforcement is, we're really talking about that only applies to regular meetings. Regular meetings are the meetings that you have 4 times a month on Mondays at the same time for your full council meeting here. And that's the only time that we're going to be dealing with that issue. I don't think this really addresses the special meetings. There is no required attendance to special meetings. If you don't have a special meeting, there's no excusing of absences. There's a question of whether you have a quorum or not, but that's the only issue that comes in there. Beyond that, that's just your own, what do you want to have for what the rules are for people to attend? What the consequences of not attending, I don't think is really addressed here. The only consequence that you have for not following the remote is arguably you could say, we're not going to let you into this remote meeting, right? So it's allowing you attend up to 4. If you get to 5 and you don't get permission to come in, then you don't get to come in and then you have an unexcused absence potentially. That's what we're talking about in legal terms. In what you want to do otherwise, I don't think it's really been vetted out for. So special meetings are meetings that are called outside of your normal schedule. We very rarely have those.
Yeah. Mr. President, as far as I remember, in 11 years that I have been a council member, I have never had a special meeting. However, the year that I got appointed, they had a special meeting because a council member passed away.
You had a special committee of the whole.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't remember. But but yes, you're right. It had to be a very special, not even during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, we have special meetings. We wait until Monday to have our regular meeting. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, thank you, Council President. Just wanted to thank Shane for the clarification because I remember as Chair of Public Safety, I had a special meeting because that first month it was kind of a schedule conflict. So if that's considered special committee meeting, and so that's kind of what it is when you're defining it.
Let me just clarify that too.
Outside of the regular schedule.
We try to loosely comply with the OPMA for committee meetings, but those committees, as long as it is less than 3, you don't take action yourself, you're only making recommendations, you don't take public testimony, those aren't covered by the OPMA. So those aren't actually meetings under the OPMA in that sense. So no, it wouldn't be a special meeting as long as we're not turning it into to an actual council meeting by having decisions made there or taking public testimony.
So just for clarity from my understanding, then it's really just when there's a COW or a full council special meeting. Not
I think really we're
special
talking about these are regular meetings. COW is kind of a hybrid and we can figure out how that works with this policy. I'll look at that. But yeah, I mean, COW is a work session, but it is a meeting under the OPMA because you have a quorum of people.
Yep.
Ryan, and then I want to point out something or hit another point.
Yeah, just a quick question on the special meeting. So I'm glad we're kind of clarifying what's what. Council retreat, would that be a special meeting?
Yeah, that's actually an example of a special meeting.
Okay.
So we have a special meeting is any meeting that happens outside of your regular cadence and location. If you move locations, it could be a special meeting as well. And you're limited to You can't take final action unless it's on the agenda. That's the difference between a special meeting. You're limited in what action you can take. You have to provide special notice when you do it. And that's of a quorum of council members. Regular meetings, you can take whatever action you want within some restriction at these regular times on Mondays, 4 times a month.
We'll start for you, Councilmember McGurven. That's a good example. The other thing I want to bring up really quickly, and I think we do need to, I don't know if I need to move on this or not, but item 4.10, Kimberly, if you can go to the next one, remote attendance at executive sessions. Council members may also attend executive sessions remotely if they have met the requirements of this policy and the attendance can be technologically accommodated. I personally feel as though remote attendance to an executive session flies in the face of what the executive session, I won't say flies in the face, but you're flirting with, you can't control who's in the background or anything like that, the confidentiality of it. My thought is that should be removed from the policy, but I wanted to have a discussion on that or at least get some kind of conversation about it. It just doesn't seem like that should be something that
I'll give my take on it real quick because I was just at a municipal attorneys conference where that issue came up with the examples of, in an airport, seeing people walk around or in a living room and seeing people walk around and potentially having a breach of confidentiality issues when they're done in a way that confidentiality is not assured. Also in a courtroom when you have witnesses testifying, you want to make sure that nobody else is in the room and things like that. I'm not saying that that's ever happened with us and bringing it up and that came up as an example. So it's a valid concern. It wouldn't be bad if you keep it to clarify that it has to be in a confidential setting to where others can't hear or see what's on the screen, things like that. So you don't end up with some argument that you've breached the confidentiality of the executive session, or you could get rid of it completely. I think either way, that's a policy decision by this body.
I mean, not meaning to be suspicious or anything like that, but we're going on somebody's word. No, nobody's here. Nobody's here when somebody could be there. I don't know. For me, no. Councilmember Vaughn and
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Shane, for clarification. I think for me, as we've gone through a pandemic, and regardless of you're in the room or not in the room, I think confidentiality piece is important when it comes to executive session. So when you were talking about, having the flexibility of logistics and time during committee, I think it's important if it is an executive session and we need input of our council colleagues. So I would go with having it being there out to have it, because whether you're in the room or not, I think it's a matter of confidentiality. So information could be taken out of that executive session, even if you're present in that room. So I think it's very important to highlight that. And so I would let us have it, folks can zoom in, and that there is that dressing confidentiality, just like we've done during the pandemic. But it's up to the council.
Mr. President.
yes.
So a couple of things. I agree to a point with what Councilmember Vaughn is saying. I will say, however, the pandemic was an extraordinary circumstance. And I guess my question for you, Shane, is what would happen to an elected official that violated executive session? Are there any rules dictating what happens?
Yes, potentially. The hammer comes down.
I've been shot.
I don't want to overspeak it right now.
No, but I mean, I think
I believe that there are potentially, and Alex maybe will tell me because I think he's looking at it earlier for a similar issue. If he's back there,
He's back there.
I believe that it could be construed as a criminal offense to share confidential information, and I could be wrong on the criminal aspect of it.
let me wrap up and then, and so I would say just for that point, I would agree with removing it, but I don't think we're done with this quite yet. I think we're going to have additional conversations about this.
I think so. Councilmember O'Halloran.
Yeah, very quickly. So the legality is if confidentiality is shared, which means that I took an action to actually tell somebody. But if somebody walks by me and overhears something and it ends up in the paper, I didn't share it.
So the worst legal consequence, if we're going to talk about legal consequence without getting into too much privilege issue, is that there is a risk of waiver of the confidentiality if someone else overhears it, even if it's unintentional, that it could create
Okay.
an argument
Okay.
that the privilege no longer applies.
Okay,
And then that information could come out through discovery in a lawsuit or something else.
got it.
I think it's for a foreseeable action. If you are in a location that's not secure, that is foreseeable that that sort of thing could happen.
More complex, but yes.
Last comment, lack of time, then we have to adjourn.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to speak last. I do have a question in terms of excused absences, because I think that it's important for us to address that, whether we have in writing or have a policy. But just for the quick time, Shane, if you can help us clarify that, because I think as far as our culture here, that we inform the council president at the time. And I say this because I think it's important for us to have the same understanding.
Yeah, and there's no guidelines in existing policy, and I don't know that I've seen policies for it. It's usually a discretionary legislative decision as to whether or not to excuse an absence. So it's whatever practice the council wants to adopt for that. I would be a little hesitant to establish exact guidelines as to when it would be excused or not to excuse, just because I can't think of every foreseeable action. But the legal consequence of it only happens if you've missed 3 consecutive unexcused meetings. And I'm not aware of that happening. It's probably happened in other jurisdictions. I've talked to other attorneys who it's happened where usually it's a protection against a council member from absconding from their duties and just not attending meetings ever, right? And usually that doesn't happen 3 times in a row and or excused because someone had a medical emergency or something else and councils would just excuse it. But yeah, in generality, I don't know what criteria to give to you in advance.
Okay, let's table that. At this point, we have to end it, adjourn the meeting, start the other one. Thank you very much. We'll continue on. I knew this was going to take long.